Chanukah, Rabbi Isai. I think Linyonenu with the new expression, a new Havana to understand why we say Afreil Chanukah. After all, many times it's quite overlooked. Of all the things that happened on Chanukah, there was a major thing, and that is the Hatzolas HaTorah. After all, we say in the Nusach of Alanisim, Lashkichem Torah Secha. So being that Chanukah is a Zman of Hatzolas HaTorah, well, the Gemara tells us very clearly, in Mesechtes Brachas Daf Hey, v'samachta b'chol ha'toiv ein toiv l'Torah. So Chanukah, which is the time that we were Zoiche to receive Torah back again, Hatzolas HaTorah, so that's the Grace to Simcha, v'samachta b'chol ha'toiv. And as the Haflo points out many times, Pekuda Hashem Yesharim Mesamche Leiv. There's no greater Sibah for Simcha Salev than Torah. So Chanukah, now that we are Zoiche again, to acquire Torah, it's a new Bechina of Kabbalah Torah, Torah Shabbat Peh, so says the Trisker Magid in the Sefer Magen Avraham, that Chanukah is the third month, starting from Tishrei, Chesh, and Kislev. Sivan is also the third month. Nisan Iyar Sivan. Sivan was a Kabbalah Torah, Be'ikr, the emphasis, he says, on Torah Shabbat. Chanukah, Kislev is Zman, Kabbalah Torah, Torah Shabbat Peh. The Ein Simcha, Simcha Torah, Savad and Avada, Afreilch and Chanukah. The Gemara Abaisai in Masechta Shabbos, of course, Daf Chof Aleph. The Gemara tells us very well-known brisa, where the Gemara says, "My Chanukah," we're all familiar. The Tana Rabbanon, Agav Urche. Parenthetically, I heard over 55 years ago, B'li Guzma, 55 years ago, from Agoyin Ramosh Bik Zerchoin Lavrocha, who said B'derech Drush that my Chanukah, what is Chanukah? The Tana Rabbanon. The Torah Rabbanon is the Iker Simcha Yontav Chanukah, the Iker celebration of Chanukah. The Torah Rabbanon Mazetz Techlenen, the Yin of Limud HaTorah. Cholay from the Brayta continues, the Torah Rabbanon B'chotei B'Kislev Yoyme the Chanukah Tamnayu Inu. We have the 8 days of Chanukah. The Loyle Misped B'Hoyin, the Loyle Samed B'Hoyin, no Spedim, there's no Tanesim. And the Brayta continues the well-known story, Shekishinichnesu Yivonim Lahechol, Timu Kol Shemanim Shebehechol, Ushigavra Malchus, Beis Chashmenoi, Benotzchum, Botku, Loimotzu Elepachechot Shel Shemen, Shoyemunach B'Chesomer Shel Kohen Gadol. We all know that. Loihoiba Ela Lahadlik, Gemechod, Nasa Boineser, and Eshakvin, Vitliku Memenu Shmoine Yomim. So, as a result, here's the punchline. As a result, Lishon Acheres Kovum Vosum Yomim Toivim, Behalol V'Hoido. Very clearly, Chazal tell us that it was a Tikonos Chachomim, at the Konas Chazal, to be Kairei Halal and Chanukah, to say Halal and Chanukah. Now, the shaila that we're going to raise is that Regabe the Chi of Noshim and Kriyas Halal, and we'll find out a number of fascinating things regarding this issue. The Rambam in Paragimel of Hilchos Chanukah, who breaks down, and we should mention that it's a very interesting that all of the halachas of Chanukah in general, the Rambam happens to discuss in Hilchos Chanukah. And Rambam there gives us a halacha in Peri Gimel, halacha Yudalet, and he says, "V'mhoya hamakre es a halal cotton or yebed or isha." That it happens to be a woman or a cotton, let's say, that is saying halal, trying to be moitzi you. So the Rambam says, "Oina achreim mashe and oimrim." So you have a chiyah that you have to repeat. You cannot be yoitze m'shemei ko'oina of a woman or a cotton or an eved reading for you, but you have to repeat it. And Rambam says, Mila b'mila b'chol halal. You have to repeat actually every word, the entire halal. The source of the Rambam is the Mishnah Masechta Sukkah Daf Lamed Ches. And Mamish it says Bezel Loshen, Mishoy Eved or Ishoy Cotton Makrin Oisoi. That if you have a situation where an Eved or a woman or a cotton is reading halal on your behalf, says the Mishnah Oina Achrei Mashe Noimrim. Now why? Here comes Rashi. Why is it that a woman reads halal for you? You have to repeat it. Says Rashi, because hoil the ein mechuyev b'davar, ein moitzi sa mechuyev midei chayvosoi. In order to be moitzi someone, it's very fundamental, very elementary. We all know that. In order to be able to be moitzi someone, you yourself have to be a mechuyev b'davar. Ki shofar, clearly we have the Mishnah that a cotton is not able to blow shofar to be moitzi a rabbim and so on and so forth, or another person, another adult, because he's not a mechuyev b'davar. So Mamela, being that an eved or isha or a cotton are not mechuyev b'davar, Hilchos says Rashi, Oine achrav, so therefore you have to repeat kol ma shu oimer. To whatever is being said, you have to repeat it. Excuse me. So kapanim, what we see from here, that noshim clearly are not mechuyev in the kriya of halal, and therefore they are not able to be moitzi anoshim. What is noteworthy, and this is really the side of this year, we have the Sdei Chemed, the Chemed in Chelik Vov, Mareches Chanuka. The Chemed Gaburche was a tremendous baki, and was very evident from the 7-8 chalakim of the Sefer Sdei Chemed, which is clearly an encyclopedic work. And you have to consider that this was done before the age of computers. You had no searches. Basically, you had to rely on your own bikiyas and the ideas that you had all over. And that is very, therefore, very impressive when you take a look at the tremendous accomplishment of the Sefer Sdei Chemed. So the Sdei Chemed brings down B'Shem the Binyan Shloime. Now, the Binyan Shloime was Reb Shlomo Vilner, Reb Shlomo Kohen. Shlomo Kohen, those who might still remember, rabbis, I say tongue-in-cheek, the Vilna Shas, because there you have the Sifte, you have all the different editions. You may not even remember what a Vilna Shas is all about. The kind of a Shas that you received as a chosen. I don't know today what they give you. But upon him, the Vilna Shas, when you go to the back, after the Marsha, and after the Rashash, the various Hagoyes, you have Hagoyes Cheshik Shloime. That's Reb Shlomo Vilner. He had a brother who was Reb Tzalel HaKohen, and also there's Hagoyes of Reb Tzalel HaKohen. He was a tremendous goy, Reb Shlomo Vilner. He basically lived in the second half of the 1800s, and he was nifter in Tov Reish Samach Vav, which is amount to 1906. Just want to tell you, rabbis, to have an idea who we're talking about, that when the Sdei Chemed addresses, there's a letter, where the Sdei Chemed addresses Reb Shlomo Vilner, Reb Shlomo HaKohen, he uses the posik that is mentioned in Tanakh regarding Shlomo HaMelech. By Shlomo HaMelech it says, Vaterev Chochma Shlomo. That the Chochma Shlomo was the most of any kind of Chochma, was overwhelming. So the Sdei Chemed uses the same title on Reb Shlomo Vilner. His name was Shlomo. Vaterev, he says, Chochma Shlomo, Kol Rozloi honestly. There's nothing hidden. There's no secrets from him. He writes, B'mufla, the Einov Mishoitetis L'chol Divrei Rishonim B'achroinim. And he says, Moitzi Yikorim Pninim Kekoyen Godel HaNechnes L'fnai L'fnim. Hafla V'fela, the title that the Sdei Chemed extends to Reb Shlomo Vilner. Anyway, the Sdei Chemed brings down from the Binyan Shlomo, and the Binyan Shlomo said the following: being that the Rambam writes this halacha, that noshim are potter from halal in Hilchos Chanuka, that is an indication that women are also potter from the halal of Chanuka. Because the Rambam there is not actually specifically discussing the halal of Chanuka. He discusses the halachas of halal in general. But the Chemed brings down from the Binyan Shlomo that in the Sefer Binyan Shlomo, he says the fact that the Rambam brings down that noshim are potter from halal, and he brings the Takedah in Hilchos Chanuka. So the Mashmois is that the Rambam's opinion is that women are potter, noshim are potter also from halal of Chanuka, and therefore noshim will not be able to be moitzi anoshim. If that's the case, comes now this Sdei Chemed and he asks the following. The Chemed says, Vitimhani. It's a big pill, it's a tamiyah, he says. He said, Vitimhani tuva. The haloi vadai, in my opinion, says it's the Chemed. K'moy demrinen. The same way that we say that noshim chayovo is bener Chanuka, even though it says mitzvah is man geromet. Nevertheless, we say that noshim are chayiv bener Chanuka. Why? Because afen hoye ba'oisanes. So hochinami tainas this Sdei Chemed chayovo is behalal the Chanuka my time. So that should be the same reason to be mechayiv noshim behalal, because afen hoye ba'oisanes. And Amele, we know that the Gemara tells us in Masechta Shabbos Daf Chav Gimel, a woman, Isha Vadai Madlekes, a woman is able to be Madlik ner Chanuka, to be moitzi another man. Because being she is mechuyev just as a man because of Afen Hoye Boisanes, Tain is this Sdei Chemed. The same way that Noshim are able to be moitzi anoshim in Hadlokes ner Chanuka, because they're just as mechuyev. Because Afen Hoye Boisanes, Hochenami Bahalal also, moitzi is gamlish. My opinion is that a woman should be able to be moitzi another man in halal of Chanuka. She's just as mechuyev. The Mishnah Sukkah that we just quoted a moment ago, the Mishnah Sukkah that says that what? That Noshim, a woman, is not able to be Moitzi. You have to repeat the Hallel yourself. He said, that's Pashut. That's talking about the Hallel of Sukkahs, he says. Homayr b'Hallel the Sukkahs. Hallel of Sukkahs, a woman is potter because it's no different than any other mitzvah says she's man geroma, he says. In the same way that she's potter from the mitzvah of Lulav, quotes the Chemet. So Mamela, the question is, this the Chemet Tainas, that in the same way that Noshim are Mechuyev, in the mitzvah ad Lokas ner Chanukah, even though it's a Zman Geroma, because of the Sibir, it's a new Mechayev of Avin Hoye Bois Anes, Machmasoy Soitam, Noshim should also be Mechuyev in the Hallel of Chanukah because of Avin Hoye Bois Anes. Parenthetically, I should point out that, in fact, the Moshe Sternbuch, and I can say Yedidi Agoyin Moshe Sternbuch, in the Sefer Meyadim Zmanim, Chelik Beis, there Taki in Simen Yud, he Taki holds that it's Nochoin, that in fact, that Noshim should say Hallel on Chanukah. And also Rav Ozner Shevet Alevi, in Chelik Aleph, Simen Reshei, he says also Nochoin, or upon appropriate, that women should say Hallel. But going back now to this Day Chemet. The Chemet again is asking the Kasha, why should Noshim be potter from Hallel? As Bepashtis is the Mashmoyas of the Rambam. Again, that diuk is from the Binyan Shloimeh. Binyan Shloimeh was Medaik, the fact that the Rambam brings down that Noshim are potter from Hallel. Where does he bring it down? The Rambam brings it down in Hilchos Chanukah. Is Mashra Noshim are potter from Hallel Chanukah also. So to this asks again this Dechemed, why should they be potter from Hallel Chanukah? We should say, Af and Hoy Boy Sanes, they should be Chayiv. The Dechemed says the following. I wanted to answer, he says, the Tamash al Rambam. The reason why the Rambam holds that Noshim are potter from Hallel of Chanukah, Mishum Kiven, he said, because being that when you're talking about the Hallel of Chanukah, Bo al Nitzochen HaMelchama. The Chemen wants to say that the Mechayiv of Hallel on Chanukah is because of the nest that the Yidden, the Yevonim, of course, we had the Gevalige Melchama that we say in the Alanisim, and we were Zoiche Rabbim Biad Meyatim, Tameim Biad Tahirim, and so on. So based upon the victory, we're Zoiche to the Nitzochen Melchama. That's the reason we say Hallel, to celebrate the Nitzochen Melchama. If that's the case, Lo Shayach Ze Benoshim. In other words, the union of Nitzochen Melchama has no Shayach to Noshim. The La B'nei Kibush Ninu. You know, when it comes to Melchama, Chazal tell us that's one of the reasons, by the way, why Noshim are potter from Piri V'Rivya, because the Torah embraces. When the Torah tells us the Chiev of Pru Ravu, it says the Kivshua, they're going to conquer the land. And Noshim are not B'nei Kibush, they are not involved in these inyanim, they're not B'nei Melchama. So it suggests this Dechemed that the Hallel on Chanukah is being said to celebrate Nitzochen Melchama. And Memela, when it comes to the Nitzochen of Melchama, Noshim are not involved with that. La B'nei Kibush. And in fact, he uses a shtickle maramokim to that as well. And he says, Ukehai Gavne Kosav, we all know the Sefer HaChinuch, in Mitzvah Tofresh Gimel, the Noshim Peturas B'Mitzvah Sasei, the Zechiras Amalek. We know that itself is the right side, is a big discussion regarding where the Noshim are Mechuyev in Parashas Zohar, in Kam Mekoyim Laharach B'Zeh. But many poskim based upon the Chinuch, that the Chinuch says that Noshim are potter from Zechiras Amalek because they are not B'nei Melchama to be involved in the union of Mechias Amalek. And being that Noshim are not involved, they are not B'nei Melchama. Melchama Hashem Ba'amalek Midor Dor has no shaykhs to Noshim. So in the same way, says this Dechemed, in the same way that we find that the Chinuch paskins, that Noshim are potter from Zechiras Amalek because they are not B'nei Melchama, that's the reason, suggests the Dechemed, why Noshim should be potter from Hallel of Chanukah. Noshim should be potter from Hallel of Chanukah again, because he posits, the Dechemed posits, that the Chayiv of Hallel on Chanukah is because of Nitzochen Melchama, and Memela, it has no shaykhis to Noshim. That's why Noshim are potter from Hallel. Adkan, this is the Dechemed. So we see, the Dechemed, we see, Rabbi said, we see two chidushim. One chiddush we see that is the opinion of the Dechemed that the Chiv Kriya Hallel on Chanukah was established on account of Nitzochen Melchama and not for the ness of the Pach Shemen. That is chiddush number one. That the sibah that we say Halal and Chanukah, even though we know that we have basically two Nisim. We have the Nes of the Pach Shemen, and of course we have the Nes of Nitzach Milchama. The opinion of the Sdei Chemet is that the Mechayiv of Halal is not for the Nes of Pach Shemen, but the Mechayiv of Halal is for the Nes of Nitzach Milchama. And in fact, we find a similar opinion in a very well-known Lamdish Sefer called Emek Brocha. Emek Brocha was a very, very choshev mechaber who is known as a great Eloi. His name was Reb Aryeh Pomeranchik. In Oelbaum Yeshivas, it's a very popular sefer. As a matter of fact, the Briskerov had great hopes for him that is Osed L'Gdoilus. Unfortunately, he was nifter very young. So Al upon him, so the Sefer Emek Brocha writes the following. He writes, the din halal b'Chanukah, he said, the din halal that we say on Chanukah, Einoi al nes hanitzochen, Elo al nes hanitzochen, is only because of the nes of the nitzochen. Shehoya b'shnei inyonim, in nitzochen itself we had Gevuras Hashem, we had Toivus Hashem, Aval al hanes shel pach Hashem and ein boy chiv halal. There's no chiv halal. And the bracha follows in the same way, follows in the same derech as the Sdei Chemet, that the Mechayiv of Halal, why we say Halal and Chanukah, is only for the Nes of Nitzach Milchama. So B'kitzur, so that is Chiddush number one. Chiddush number one again of the Sdei Chemet, that Halal was instituted on Chanukah, the Tukonas Halal on Chanukah was for the Nes of the Nitzach and not for the Pach Shemen. Chiddush number two, the Sdei Chemet holds that the reason of Af Henohoya Boisanes to be Mechayiv Noshim only has a shaykha to the Nes of Pach Shemen. To the Nes of Pach Shemen, which would mean Hadlokas HaManoira, Af Henohoya Boisanes has a shaykha only to the Nes of Pach Shemen, but does not have a shaykha to Nes HaNitzochen. So we don't say Af Henohoya Boisanes regarding the Nes HaNitzochen. Mamela, there's no halal. That's what we see from this Sdei Chemet. However, Aboisai, there are a number of problems. With this mahalach of the Sdei Chemet. Number one, first of all, the first item that the Sdei Chemet brings, and he says that Halal on Chanukah was established for the Nes of the Nitzachim Milchama and not for the Nes of Pach Shemen. L'mais and Rishonim, we see not like that. We see in Rishonim that Halal was established for the Nes of the Pach Shemen. Let's take a look, two lines, Rabbi Zai, in the Lashon of the Meiri, Mesach Shabbos, Dav Chofal Amud Beis. That's Bim Koimoi. And the Meiri says the following: Va'af al pi shebegeulas Mitzrayim ein goimrim es halal elo yom rishon. And the Meiri asks, why is it on Chanukah we say halal all 8 days? And yet, when it comes to Pesach, we only say complete halal only the first day. Chutzlor, it's 2 days. Say only 1 day. Why on Pesach we are goymer halal only the first day, b'yom rishon? And why is it on Chanukah we say halal all 8 days? Says the Meiri, Chanukah shayne. Chanukah is different. Shebechol yom v'yom hoyo hanes misrabe u'mischadesh yoser. In other words, it's mefurish in the Meiri, being that in Chanukah every day there was a new miracle, there was a new nes regarding the Shemen, that Shemen continued to burn an extra day and another extra day and another extra day. So every day we saw a new nes. Every day we saw a new nes, that the nes would misrabe ribu nes. We saw a chiddush of the nes continuous each and every day. So Mamela, therefore, every day of Chanukah is a new nes, and therefore we say halal for all 8 days. Very mefurish, very clearly in the words of the Meiri, that halal of Chanukah was nisakin. The Chazal instituted, where Misakin, the halal of Chanukah, was for the nes of the Shemen. Gaburcha, take a look also in the Taz, in the beginning of Hilchos Chanukah, Simen Tov Resh Ayin, Sivkoten Gimel. As a matter of fact, Rabbi Isai, the Pashtas, the flow of the Gemara in Shabbos that we started out, is also mashma like that the halal because of the nes of the Pach Shemen. Let's remember again. How did the Brisa begin? Mesach Shabbos, Chof Aleph. Brisa starts Mai Chanukah. So what is Chanukah all about? Mai Chanukah, what is Chanukah? And the Brisa continues, Nichnasu Yavonim Lahechol, and the Brisa continues and says, V'lahoyu boy lahadlik ela yoim echad, said the Brisa. And what happened? Likum Amenu Shmoina Yomim, Lishana Acheres, Kovum Vosam Yomim Tovim, Bahalal, V'hoidoah. So the flow of the Brisa is talking about what? About the Ness of the Shemin. The Brisa Mechlal doesn't talk about the Ness of the Tzochem L'choma. The Brisa clearly talks about that there was a Pach Shemin, that Shlohoi B'Elahadli Kilo Yom was only one, enough for one day, and the Likum Memenu Shmoina Yomim. And the Shana Cheres, Kovum, Yom Toy B'Halal V'hoidoah, in order to say Halal. So again, so B'Pashta, the lunch of the Brisa appears to be not like this Dechemet, that the Tikkun of Halal is on account of the Nitzochem L'choma, but rather the Lashon of the Brisa seems to B'Pashtas indicate that the Tikkun of Halal was based upon the Ness of the Pach Shemin. That's one problem. Second Shaila, second Kasha, really, against this Dechemet, even we accept the words of this Dechemet, that the Halal of Chanukah was established for the Nes of Nitzochem L'choma. So this Dechemet says, if that's the case, if the Halal is based upon the Nes of Nitzochem L'choma, women have no shaychet to the Nes of Nitzochem L'choma, so Afhen Hoye Baisanes is not able to be Mechai of Halal. Because if Halal is established because of the Nes of Nitzochem L'choma, Afhen Hoye Baisanes does not apply to women. If it's negate to Nitzochem L'choma. Rabbi Sai, in Rashi, it's mefurish not like that. How does Rashi teach Afhen Hoye Baisanes? Take a look, Rashi in Shabbos Chav Gimel. Psachim Rashi has another pshat, but here in our sugya here in Rashi in Shabbos Chav Gimel, Rashi says, what does it mean? Afen Hoy Boisanes? Says Rashi, Perusho, it means that Yedei Isha Nasa Hanes. We all know the story regarding Yehudis, that she cut off the head, she beheaded the head of the general, and so on, and that led to the Nitzochem L'choma. So clearly, Rashi teaches that the Afen Hoy Boisanes is the involvement, Dafke the involvement, that women were involved. There was a woman involved. That the Nes happened on Yedei Isha. And that's talking about Nes HaNitzochem. So Afen Hoy Boisanes Hoy Bazoi does apply to the Nes of Nitzochem L'choma. And Memela, she should be Mischayev in the Takona that was established on the count of the Nes, which according to Dechemet Halal was Nesakin because of the Nes of Nitzochem L'choma. So women should also be Mechoyev. What's this Dechemet telling us that doesn't apply to women? Because Nitzochem L'choma, Afen Hoy Boisanes is not going to be Mechayev Halal on account of Nitzochem L'choma. The women are also Afen Hoy Boisanes, even if it involves Nitzochem L'choma. So clearly is the Lashon of Rashi. So let's go back again. They've tried to solve the problem in a different way. What is the problem? The problem is that the Bin Shloim is medayik from the Rambam again. The Noshim are ported from the Halal of Chanukah, and the kasha that we asked, l'chayra Afen Hoy Boisanes, the same way that Afen Hoy Boisanes is Mechayiv Noshim Nadlokas Ner Chanukah, so l'chayra Noshim should also be Mechayiv in the Halal of Chanukah. That is the issue again, Rabbi Zai, at hand that we're trying to solve. So let's, Rabbi Zai, go the following mahalach. Everybody is aware there's a very famous Beis Yosef. Beis Yosef, Rabbi Sai, discusses in Hilchos Pesach, in Simen Tov Tzadik, the reason why we are not goymer halal on Shvi Shel Pesach. We are not goymer halal Shvi Shel Pesach. We had the Nes of Kriyas Yamsuf, and we are not goymer halal on Shvi Shel Pesach. As we are well aware, we are only goymer halal the first day of Pesach, and the Beis Yosef goes down to explain why. Why that we are not goymer halal on Shvi Shel Pesach? And Beis Yosef says, because we all know the Gemara Masechtas Megillah Daf Yud Amud Beis, where the Gemara tells us, because Baruch was said to the Malach HaShoros, which Shvi Shel Pesach, and the Gemara said that Bikshu Malach HaShoros Leimer Shira. The Malachim wanted to say Shira, so Kodesh Baruch Hu said to the Malach HaShoros, listen, Maseh Yodai Tovin B'Yam Batem Oimim Shira. On Shvi Shel Pesach, the Mitzrayim drowned. I mean that the Mitzrayim drowned, so it's a Zman Peronius to those people. So Kodesh Baruch Hu is saying, Maseh Yodas of Kosof, they are the creation of my handiwork. They are Maseh Yodai. And Memela, Kodesh Baruch Hu says it's not appropriate to say Shira. Maseh Yodai Tovim B'Yam Batem Oimim Shira. So the Gavurche, the Mefarshim will ask, but Klal Yisrael did say Shira. Oz Yosher Moshe. What about the time of Maseh Yodai Tovim B'Yam? There's a lot of Tirutzim. But one terutzim that is said b'shem Reb Chaim Brisker. Reb Chaim Brisker says that the Yidden at that time, they were the Balei Hanes. They were the ones who actually experienced the Nes. The Nes happened to them. When somebody is a Bal Hanes himself, he has a chiyuv to say Shira, and there's no chishbainis, Ma'aseh Yodeh Tovim B'Yam, other situations. You had a Nes happen to you, you have a chiyuv to say Shira for that Nes. The Malachim were not Balei Hanes. They want to say Shira because the Nes happened to Klal Yisrael. So wait a minute. And Chanami and Nes happened to Klal Yisrael, but Masar Sheni was also, the Nes happened through Peronius. Ma'aseh Yodeh Tovim B'Yam. So Balei Hanes is a separate cheshbon. Balei Hanes takar machayv takar to say Shira. Al Kapam said to B'S Yosef, so the Deiris, all the generations, we do not say Shira said to B'S Yosef on Shvi Shel Pesach. The reason is again because Ma'aseh Yodeh Tovim B'Yam. So points out the B'S Yosef. So there's a Weltkashe, and it's brought down in the Sefer Mishnus Rav Aaron as well from Hagoyin Rav Aaron Kotler Zechoyin L'Rocha, and he says, why did the B'S Yosef have to give this reason? We have a Beferish reason, which is mentioned in Meshachtas Eruchim. Meshachtas Eruchim Davyud is the whole discussion regarding Halal. Eruchim Davyud Amar Aleph, and the Gemara there is the following Shakla V'Tarya. 2 lines, Rabbi Yitzhak, 2 lines of Shakla V'Tarya. The Gemara says the following: Ma'ishana b'Chag the Omrinin Kol Yoima u'Ma'ishana b'Pesach the Omrinin Kol Yoima. The Gemara asks the Pashto Shaila. Sukkos we say Halal, we are Goymer Halal on Sukkos every day. So the Gemara says Sukkos we are Goymer Halal all 7 days of Sukkos. So Pesach also we should be Goymer Halal each and every day of Pesach. Why did that on Sukkos? Ma'ishana b'Chag. Why on Sukkos we say Halal, we are Goymer Halal Kol Yoima every day, and why Pesach not? And the Gemara says the following. The Gemara says because the Chag, says the Gemara, Chalukin b'Korban Haseyim. But the Pesach is ein Chalukin b'Korban Haseyim. We're all familiar that a Chag, each day, there's a different series of Korbanos. We know it starts with more and it becomes the Smayit. The Pura Chag becomes the Smayit every day. We start by 14 and go down. So Mamela. So being that every day of Sukkot has a different set of Korbanos, Mamela has a din like a separate yontif, so to speak. Every day of Sukkot is a separate yontif, has a din like a yontif if they atzmoy, due to the fact that it's chalukim b'korban haseyim. On the other hand, Pesach is not chalukim b'korban haseyim. You don't have a different series, a different set of korbanos each and every day. So Mamela, therefore, Pesach is not considered to be, the subsequent days of Pesach are not considered to be like a separate yontif. In other words, the halal of the first day of Pesach is chal on the entire Pesach, so to speak. It's kilu, we would say, it's all like a yoyim arichte. All the days of Pesach, all the 7 days of Pesach are like one long yontif, because it's not choluk b'korban haseyim. This is the Gemara. Oibazai, Freit Reb Aaron, and other Mefarshim as well. So clearly we know why we don't say halal on Shvi Shel Pesach. Shvi Shel Pesach is not choluk. It's not different, the korbanos on Shvi Shel Pesach, than the first day of Pesach or any other day of Pesach. So Mamela, the Gemara clearly tells us that the reason we are not Goymer Halal every day on Pesach, because it's not Cholik B'Korban Haseyim. If it's not Cholik B'Korban Haseyim, so there's no Machai for each and every day, only for the first day of Pesach. So why does the B'S Yosef have to come down and bring us this reason that we find in Chazal, that Ma'aseh Yodeh Tovim B'Yam, V'atem Roim Shira, Poshet, we see another reason. So why do we need 2 reasons B'chlal? Why do we need these 2 reasons? So Reb Aaron said the following. Reb Aaron said because we have to remember there's one more line there in the Gemara. The Gemara there, Mesechtes Aaron tells us a Yesod. The Gemara says that in order to have a chiv of halal, the day has to have a shem moyed. As it has to have a name of a yontif. It has to have a shem moyed. It has to be a yontif. And the Gemara says, what determines the shem moyed? So the Gemara says it has to be Igdash Basiyas Malacha. Another a day that has Kedusha, that it is also Basiyas Malacha, that gives it a Shem Moyed. That means it's a Moyed. And therefore you say Halal. Frei the Gemara, B'ho Chanukah. Chanukah is not also Basiyas Malacha. So why do we say Halal on Chanukah? And for the Gemara, Mishum Nisa. Chanukah is a separate Machai because of this Nes. The Nes of Chanuka, being that Chanuka is a man that we had all these Nisim. So Mela, the Machayv of Halal B'Chanuka is because of a Nes. Says Reb Aaron, what do you see from this Gemara? We see in the Gemara that there are two separate mechayvim in order to say halal. One mechayv of halal is yontif, the shem yontif. If you have a day that is a yontif, so yontif is mechayv to say halal. The second mechayv, the second possible mechayv to say halal is a nes. If you have a nes to celebrate, so whenever you have a nes is also a mechayv to say halal. Says Rabbarim Poshet, the Gemara which says in Masechtas Erechim that the reason we do not say halal on Pesach, including Shvi Shel Pesach, because it's not cholik b'korban asayim. The Gemara there is talking about the mechayv halal on account of yontif. Shvi Shel Pesach is a yontif, and being that Shvi Shel Pesach is a yontif, so why shouldn't we say halal on Shvi Shel Pesach? After all, the fact that it's a yontif, it should be mechayv to say halal. To this effort, the Gemara, it's taka yontif, but it's not a separate yontif. It's not cholik b'korban asayim. So the fact that it's not cholik b'korban asayim, that's an excuse. That's a reason why we don't say halal on Shvi Shel Pesach mitam yontif. However, says Rabbarim, but Shvi Shel Pesach also has a second mechayev, mitam nes. Forget about yontif. Mitam yontif echanami, they're not chayev because it's not cholik b'korban asayim. But Shvi Shel Pesach was kriyas yamsuf. So now you have the nes of kriyas yamsuf. So the nes should be mechayev to say halal. To this comes the Bishayso, gives us the other reason from the Medrash, from the Gemara Megillah, that Masa Yodatom Biyam, a nest that comes ayidei Peronius. The nest that happens to get through Peronius, this type of a nest is not a mechayev to say shira. That's why we don't say shira on Shvi Shel Pesach either. Which means the following, you have to have two reasons. You see, Rabbi Isai, if we would have only had the reason of the Medrash, not to say shira, not to say halal on Shvi Shel Pesach, because Ma'aseh Yodeh Tovim Biyom, that wouldn't be enough. Because that would only be a reason not to say shira because of a nes. A nes that comes out Yudei Peronius, you don't say halal. But however, there's still a mechayv mitam yontif. Ma'aseh Yodeh Tovim Biyom is not an excuse to be mavatal. The chiv halal mitam yontif. In order to be potter from the chiv halal mitam yontif, for that we need the other reason as well. And that is, it's not cholik b'korban asayim. I mean that it's not cholik b'korban asayim, so we don't have a separate chiv halal. So the halal that we say b'yom rishon is chal on the entire yontif. So again, so what do we see? Hayot salonu muzeh. What comes out from, we see from the Chiddush of Rabbaran in his Sefer Mishnah's Rabbaran, that in Shvi Shel Pesach Demes, there would have been a possibility of have two chiyuvim to say halal. Shvi Shel Pesach is a day that would have been royu to be mischayev to say halal because of two separate reasons, two separate chiyuvim. Number one, because it's a chag, Shvi Shel Pesach is a yontif, and second of all, because of the nes of kriyas yamsuf, and therefore we have to have two reasons. Therefore we have to have two reasons, two timim to patra the two chiyuvim. The reason we're not going halal mitam yontif, Shvi Shel Pesach after all is a yontif, because it's not cholik b'korban asayim. So it's not considered to be a separate yontif. It's all part of the first day. And weiter, the reason why don't we say halal still? Why don't we say halal still on Shvi Shel Pesach mitam nes? For that, we say the reason is because Ma'aseh Yodeh Tovim Biyam. So Kapanan, we see clearly that the two possible mechayvim, either the Shem Yontif is Mechayev Halal or the Shem Nes. So Rabbi said, now we ask ourselves a shaila. What is the Mechayev of Halal on Chanuka? Is the Pshat is because Sov Kol Sov, Chanuka is a Yontif. Kovim Vosum Yomim Tovim. Chanuka is a Yontif. So Mamela, so the Mechayev of Halal on Chanuka is B'tam Yontif. Or maybe, after all, Chanuka, we have the Nes of Chanuka. Is the Mechayev of Chanuka, is it Mitam Nes? Let's try Rabbi side to figure out, to sort this out. The shaila that we're asking is, being that there are two possible mechayvim, in order to say halal, the Shem Yontif and the Shem Nes, the shaila that we have now is the din halal of Chanuka, Rabbi side, was the takon of Chazal because of the Yontif of Chanuka, or was it the takon of Chazal to say halal on Chanuka was because of the Nes? Now, again, if you remember, the Pashtus Loshen of Chazal that the Gemara mentioned in Erechim, the Gemara said, Kasha, Chanuka is not also Basis Malacha. What did the Gemara answer? The Gemara said, Mishum Nisa. So by Pasha, the Loshen of the Gemara in Erechim is Mashma, that Mechayev of Halal on Chanuka because of the Nes. That is the Pashtus Loshen of the Gemara's Teres, that we say Halal on Chanukah, even though it's not Osir Basiyas Malacha, because of the Nes. So the Pashtus Loshen and the Maskonas HaGemara in the Sechtas Erechin, that the Mechayev Halal on Chanukah is because of the Nes. But then Rabbi said we have a stira to the Brayso of Masechta Shabbos. Again, the Brayso of Shabbos that we mentioned at least twice. The Gemara again, where the Gemara says my Chanukah, and the Brayso over there continues Shenichnesu Lavonim Yehechol, and it talks about Timu Kol Hashmanim, and they found one Pach Shemen that was Mona B'Chaysomish or Kohen Gadol L'Hoy B'Lahadlik Elohim Echad, and a Nes happened with Likum Amenu Shemona Yomim. Listen to the Lashon of the Gemara. L'Shana Acheres Kovum Vosum Yomim Toivim B'Halal V'Hoydor. So the following year they made it Yomim Toivim B'Halal V'Hoydor. So here is B'Pachas Mashma that the Chazal were Kivei Chanukah as a Yontif, Lagabe Halal V'Hoydor. Is Mashma B'Pachas that the din Halal on Chanukah is on account of Yontif, that they made it a Yontif in order to say Halal. So the Chayda is a Tzarachian from the Gemara Erechin. The Gemara Erechin said that the reason that you say Halal Chanukah Mishum Nisa, that the Nes is what is Mechayev. And the truth is, so Take is Mashma B'Pashtus, that the Mechayev Halal on Chanukah is the Yontif, as the Poshut of Mashmoyas in the Gemara again in Shabbos, Kovum Vosum Yomim Toivim B'Halal V'Hoydor, from a Dover Pele Moed, a Dover Nifle Moed, from the words of the Goyin, the Gra. And that is found in the Siddur HaGra. The Gra over there brings down, and he says, a Dover Pele. We say Halal 8 days on Chanukah. We say Halal 8 days on Chanukah. So the Goyin says, you know why we say Halal 8 days of Chanukah? Because there are 8 Yomim Tovim in the year that we don't say Halal. And then the 8 days of Chanukah, the Halal, is a Tashlumen. Here, Rabbi Sai. The 8 days that we say Halal on Chanukah is a Tashlumen for the 8 days of Yomim Tovim that we don't say Halal. What are the 8 days? Well, the 8 days is as follows. Pesach, right, we only say Halal the first day. The other 6 days of Pesach, we don't say Halal. And also Rosh Hashanah, we don't say Halal. And also Yom Kippur, we don't say Halal. So Mela says the Goyim. So being that we have 8 regolim, which the Chayre Yontif is as man to say Halal, not to be Mechayev Halal, and yet they have the separate reasons why not. But at the end of the day, we have 8 Yom Tovim because of this reason, because of that reason. L'maaseh, we do not say Halal, so therefore we say Halal all 8 days. It should be b'toyres tashlumen. The lashon as he brings over there, umashlimen b'Chanukah neged ches yomim shechos Halal. We are mashlim on Chanukah, keneged 8 days that we are lacking Halal. Vav Yemei Pesach. You have the 6 days of Pesach. And then he said, Rosh Hashanah, Takev, Yom Kippur. So Rabbi Sai, let's stop for a moment. If we're going to say, Rabbi Sai, that the Mechayev of Halal, Rabbi says only because of a Nes, so the Halal of Chanukah is a totally different nature, a different character. How the Shaykh that the Halal of Chanukah should be a Tashlumen for the Halal that we don't say on these Yom Tovim? It's a totally different type of a Halal. What Shaykh to say that it's a Tashlumen? The Pashtus is mushroom from the Goyin, that the opinion of the Goyin was that the Halal of Chanukah is also because of the Shem Yontif Shaboy. Because the Chazal, Kovim Vosim Yomim Tovim. If Halal also, the Mechayev of Halal is because of Yontif, then it's Yitochen, then it's Shach to say that the Halal that we're saying on the 8 days, the Halal we're saying on the 8 days of Chanukah is Shach to be Mashlim. But on the other hand, if we're going to say that the Halal of Chanukah is because it's Halal al Hanes, it's quite difficult to say that a Halal that we are saying, that the whole takona, the whole essence of the Halal, is because of an ace, comes to be Tashlumen for a Halal for the Yomim Tovim that we say Halal. So again, so it's Mashma again Nochamo from the Gemara in Shabbos, and taken from the Goyim, that the Mechayev of Halal on Chanukah is the Yomim Tovim, the Shem Yontif Shaboy. So the kasha that we have now is from the Gemara in Erechin. The Gemara in Erechin has for Chanukah, again, why do we say Halal on Chanukah? After all, it is not Osir Basiyas Malacha, and the Gemara says, Mishum Nisa, because of an S. L'chayre, Rabbi Sai, this Shaila, where the Mechayev of Halal on Chanukah is Mishem Yontif, that the Shem Yontif is Mechayev Halal, or it is the Nes of Chanukah, L'chayre, the machlokes rishonim regarding what the mechayev of halal is. And the Beis Yosef actually brings down in Siman Tov Reish Pei Gimel, brings down a Shebola Haleket. And the Shebola Haleket, Rabbi Isai says the following. Quote you the Losh from the Shebola Haleket. The Haleket Rabbi Isai, one of those Rishonim Rabbi Isai that actually lived in Rome. And it's interesting that even to this day, there is a mokim in Rome where there's a plaque on a particular dira over there, where historically or traditionally, it's accepted that on this place was once the Beis Medrash of the Shebola Haleket. So is the sign, as on that place now, in the present time, where that sign actually is put on the side of the wall, happens to be a restaurant. And it's a very interesting thing that the owner of the restaurant, it's a Goyish restaurant, that he welcomes that there are tourists who come, push it to this place, because it is, again, there's a Messiah of some sort, that this is the place where the Holy Rishon, the Shebola Haleket, he had his Beis Medrash over here. So very interesting. And I myself had, actually, I had the schus, because he takes down the people who come to visit, the Jewish people, and it's a restaurant. So they have to walk through the side of the restaurant. Interesting. He doesn't care, the owner, that all the people on the shtickle sort of disrupted by having tourists coming in, goes down to the basement and has a mikveh, shows where there's a mikveh, which is dated back to that kuf, the Tekufas Rishonim. It's a havla of a fellow de Gezach. It says the Shebola Haleket the following. Well, like it says, Veloma goymer es halal b'Chanukah. Why are we goymer halal on Chanukah? Said the Shebola Haleket, Motzosi hatam b'shem Rabbeinu Shloime zecher tzadik livrocha. He happened to have, he says, a tam from Rashi. Happened to Rashi, there are many Rashi that we don't have. So he says, I found a reason b'shem Rabbeinu Shloime from Rashi, and Rashi says a gewaldige Zach. Listen to this Rashi. Why are we goymer Chanukah all 8 days? Quotes the Shebola Haleket b'shem Rashi, mitoich shehi chaluka b'nei roiseho kol yoim v'yoim choluk mishalefonov have kechag shecholuk b'karbonosov. In other words, he quotes b'shem Rashi, says that Chanukah, being that every day there's a different amount of neiros, 1, 2, and then 3 neiros, 4 neiros, 5 neiros. So it's doimet to sukkis, the same way that sukkis the Gemara says in Erechim. The same way that by sukkis the Gemara says in Erechim. Why are we goymer halal every day of sukkis? Because it's cholik b'karbonoseo. Bring the Shebola Haleket b'shem Rashi. Chanukah also is choluk b'nei roiseo. It's a chiddush because it's all mitam hadrin that we add. But upon him, Rabbi Isai, this is the way it is. This is the way he mentioned it. So Chanukah also is considered to be, being that it's cholik b'nei roiseo. Namela, he says, it's considered to be like chag, like sukkot, which is cholik b'karbonoseo. That each day is considered to be a separate yontif. That is reason number 1. That he brings b'shem Rashi. Continue with Rabbi Isai the Shebola Haleket. The Ochi Rabbi Yamin, Neira Yor. However, my brother, he said, Rabbi Yamin, he gives a different reason. Rabbi Isai, what's the reason? So he said the following. The reason is, Lama goyim halal al shiva simei Chanukah. Why are we goyim halal? Why is it not enough to say the first day? Why do we continue saying the rest of the 7 days? Why? Shahanes nischadesh b'chol yoyim v'yoyim. And he goes with the story in Echnesu Heichal, and there was only 1 pach shemen. The nasel and nes v'dliku memeno shmoine yomim. Im kein b'chol yoyim v'yoyim nischadesh hanes. Every day it was a new nes, more oil, more oil, more oil. Again, mamele val chidushan shel nes on a goyim is a halal b'chol yoyim. So we have Rabbi here 2 reasons. One reason brings down b'shem Rashi, because the fact that it's cholik b'nei reseo, it is doime the sukkos, which is each day is a separate yontif. Then it brings the what? Because every day there was a new nes. Rabbi said, what is the machlokes here? What are they arguing about? The chayah that Rabbi said, this is the shaila. They're arguing the machlokes is, and what is the yisayda machayev of halal Chanukah? The first reason, the tam reason that it brings down b'shem Rashi, that the reason that we say halal, because it's cholik b'nei reseo, because that goes with the opinion that the machayev of halal is the shem yontif. That Chanukah kovim b'osim yom tov. That the halal has a shem yontif. So the question is, but why do we say halal every day? Pesach we don't say halal every day. Why on Chanukah? So he brings down B'Shem Rashi because Chanukah is doing with the Sukkos. That every day is like a Naya Yontif. Because it's Cholik B'Korban Eseo. So here too it's Cholik B'Nei Eseo. On the other hand, the second reason holds from Ochi Rabbi Binyamin that the Mechayiv of Halal Rabbi is not the Shem Yontif. It is the Nes. If it's the Nes, that's another reason. It's a good reason. Why to say Halal? Because the Nes every day was a new Nes. The Nes was Mischadish B'chol Yoim V'Yoim. And that's why we are going Halal each and every day. Just a Gaburcha, Rabbi Isai, it just could just to hear. We're talking about something like this and to find out that the gewaltige wealth of information regarding this situation that we're talking about. For example, the B'Shaisa brings down another reason, B'Shem de Shibola Haleket. And he said the following, why we say Halal every day in Chanukah. V'oi, this is a new time. Shahirei Koirim B'Nesim. Every day of Chanukah, we read the parish of the Nesim. V'Yomerishin Hikriv, Nachshem Ben Aminodov, Yom Sheni, Yom Shlishi. Said the Shibola Haleket. Again, brought down by the Beis Yosef. U'B'chol Yoim, Nosi Shaloi Cholok Mishal Chaderoi. Every day, each Nasi Rabbi Isai, he's a different person, and he's bringing his own korbanos. So being that each and every day, we have a separate Nasi, each day is connected to a different Nasi. Im Kain, Kol Nasi Tzorach Ligmar HaHalal Al Korbanosov. Every Nasi has to be going mahal on his korbanos. The Ein Royu Lechadish Kriya, he said, Beloy Kriyas Hal. To read Chanukah, Kriyas HaTorah, to read a new Nasi without a new halal, it's not appropriate. Each Nasi has his own chiyuv of halal al korbanosov. So upon this is another reason, I'm saying this a Gabruchit, not directly a shaykh to what we're talking about, but just very, very fascinating. So upon him, so what is Mefurish? So Mefurish, we say that the fact is that we find that Chazal were kivayah to say halal, or upon we find out is La Dafka has a shaykhis with an S. We see that it has a shaykhis taka with the yontif. That is the first reason. The first reason that halal of Chanukah is because of the yontif. And the Mela, either it is Rabbi Isai. Well, we can add that. Either we can say it's Cholik B'nei Riseo or it's Cholik B'Nesin. We can add that also, Rabbi, so we can attach that. We can say that this is all the reason why we say halal mitam yontiv each and every day. As opposed to Pesach, we don't, because it's doim mit the Sukkot. Sukkot is Cholik B'Korban Oisov. And as far as Chanukah is also Cholik. Either it's Cholik in the Neiris or it's Cholik B'Nesim. So Kloponim, so this reason applies, Rabbi Isai, if you hold that the Mechayiv of halal is mitan yontif. So Kaponim, so now we have again the basic kasha. If we hold that the Mechayiv of halal is mitan yontif, we have the Gemara in Eruchim. And if we have the Gemara in Eruchim, the Gemara says again, for Chanukah, why do we say halal Chanukah? It's not also basis malacha. And the Gemara says, Mishum Nisa, because of an S. So the Gemara says because of an S. So Rabbi Isai, the answer to that can be found in one shura, in one line in Toisus. We find the Toisus, a pellet gezach we find in Toisus. We find in Toisus, the Toisus actually was ma'arev. The Toisus actually mixed two reasons together. We find Toisus, the Toisus actually mixed two reasons together. And Toisus says the following. Listen to Losh of Toisus. Toisus is in Tainis, Daf Chav Ches Omad Beis. The Chanukah says, Toisus says, Dinahu. Chanukah, it's appropriate, ligmar halal. The chol haches yomim, hoya hanes misgadol. So what is Toisus starting to say? The reason we say halal all 8 days on Chanukah, because each day the nes became heightened. Each day the nes became greater. V'hoya kol chad v'chad yomtiv. Now Toisus Rabbi is talking about yomtiv. Rabbi, which is it? Posach benes. V'sayim beyontif. Toisus starts. Why are we going mahal on Chanukah? The cholaches yomim hoyanes misgadol. Because every day the nes became greater. Memela v'hoya kol chad v'chad yontif. So interesting. Toisus starts out to say that we say hal on Chanukah because every day the nes became greater. The ribui hanes. And then Toisus says v'hoya kol chad v'chad yontif. So the beer of Toisus, we have to say, and it's kamat mamish muchach in Toisus, that Toisus has a new pshat in the Gemara in Eruchim, which means the follows. When the Gemara says in Eruchim that the reason we say halal on Chanukah is because of the nes, does not mean that the nes is mechayev halal. What the Gemara meant to say is, because halal had a nes, that's a reason that Chazal made Chanukah into a yontif. The Mechayiv of Halal is Yontif. Why did Chanukah become a Yontif? It's not also Basis Malacha. So Chazal tell it because of a Nes. In other words, it flows beautifully in the Lashon Gemara, first of all. Because the Gemara there in Erech is talking about that in order to say Halal, you have to have a Moyed. The definition of Moyed is that you have to have the Kedusha Isra Asiyas Malacha. Freddie Mava Chanukah. Chanukah is not also Basiyas Malacha. So the it's not a Moyed. That's the Gemara's Kasha. And for the Gemara Mishim Nisa. So the Pshat of the Gemara is because of a Nes, it is a Moyed. In other words, you either have a Moyed because of Asiyas Malacha, or Chazal Beroiv Chochmosam because of the Nes of Chanukah. So therefore they were Kreveya that Chanukah Taka be a Yontif, which means that even though Chanukah is not Nesar Basiyas Malacha, there's no Isra Basiyas Malacha, it still is a Yontif because of the Nes, because the Nes of Chanukah, they're Kreveya, it should be Taka Yontif. So it comes out, the bottom line, the end of the day, the takon of Kriyas Halal, Rabbi Isai, was because of the Yontif. But mitzad the Nes itself, they would not be Mechayiv Halal. Because of the Nes itself, they would not be Mechayiv Halal, but rather because of the Nes, it became a Yontif. And that's the Losh of Toisus. Toisus wants to explain that if the Nes of Chanukah is because of Yontif, Rabbi Isai, but why do we say it every day? Pesach is also we have a Yontif, we only say it once. So Toisus said, because being that the Nes was Mischadish B'chol Yom V'Yom, so Kol Chad V'Chad have a Yontif. So each day of Chanukah is like a separate Yontif. So the mashmois of Toisus very clearly is that in fact that the Mechayiv of Halal on Chanukah is Yontif, not the Nes. It's because of the Nes. Nes is only a Sibbe. The Metzias of the Nes was only a Sibbe for why Chazal made it takone to be Koiveya Chanukah to Hashem Yontif. Once it has Hashem Yontif, so Mel Taki say Halal. So the Losh of the Gemara is very beautifully in Shabbos. Kovim Vosem Yomim Toivim Bahalal. I'm Barashi over there. Mamshas Mashma. Rashi says it's a Yontif Loishin Neser Basiyas Malochet. Mamsh what we're talking about. Mamsh Mefurish. It's not a Yontif Basiyas Malochet. They're Keveya to be a Yontif. The Nes was Keveya Chanukah to be a Yontif. In order to say Halal because of a Yontif. Mamela Bazer Rabbi Sai. We have a Poshta Teretz regarding the Kasha of the Zdei Chemet. The Chemet's Kasha was, why is it, Rabbi Sai? Why is it that Noshim are not mechuyev in the decree of Halal of Chanukah after all afen hoy by Sanes? So I want to refer to you, Toisus and Sukkah Daf Lamed Ches. I think in the Hachonas Ashir I saw just the last few lines. I think you saw that Toisus. Let me just repeat the lines. Toisus and Sukkah Daf Lamed Ches. Toisus said the following: because the Gemara Sukkah was the Gemara that says that if a woman is trying to be moitzi you and Halal, you can't be yoitza. Oy nachreim, you have to repeat it. It says Toisus the following. Mash Mekan, the fact that you have to repeat the halal. If you hear it from a woman, Mash Mekan, the Isha Petura Mahalal. It's a matter that a woman is potter from halal, of sukkahs. The chaim that's why is she potter? Why? But taima, Mishum de Mitzvah Shazman Geromahu. Frey Toises. Now listen, important. Frey Toises, Avagab the halal de leil psochim mashma de machayve. The Gemara Narbe Pesachim Daf Kufches Mashma that women are chayv in the halal of the Seder night. Because women are chayv ba'arba koises, the third kois is because of halal. Her third kois is to say halal over it. Noshim are also mechuyev in the dalat koises. It's mashma that women are mechuyev in the halal of Pesach. Says Toises, shane halal de Pesach dal hanesbo. Halal of Pesach is because of the nes. The afen hoy boy sanes. So the halal of Pesach taka women are mechuyev. Afen hoy sanes. Avol kan, however halal say on sukkahs and on Shavuos and so on, loy al hanes omur. So l'chayr we see very, very here for here. From Taisa we see like this: a halal that's because of a nes. If the nes is mechayiv halal, then women are also chayiv. Afin ois a nes. But halal where the yontiv is mechayiv, women are potter because it's man geroma. Rabbi Sai by Chanukah we have proven that the mechayiv of halal Chanukah is not because of the nes. It's only because of the nes that Chazal were kivei Chanukah shem yontiv. To the end of the day, as we've shown from many Rishonim as well, that the mechayiv of halal and Chanukah is what? Is the shem yontiv. If the mechayiv of halal Rabbi say the shem yontiv, so maybe it has nothing to do with the nes. So after Rabbi the nes doesn't apply. That's why Noshim. That's what's mashma like the Binyan Shlomo said from the Rambam. That Noshim are put on the halal of Chanukah. I this the chemer as the kasher gewal. After Rabbi the nes, After Rabbi the nes has no shaychis to the chiv halal. The mechayiv of halal and Chanukah is not because of the nes. The mechayiv halal and Chanukah because it's a yontiv. Kovim vosem yomim toivim. That's the mechayiv. And the mechayiv is yontiv. Well, Noshim potter from any halal of yontiv. Had lukas neiris Rabbi said they are chayiv. You know why? Gewaldig. Because the Mechayiv of the Lokas Neres, Rabbi, is not the Yontif of Chanukah. It's the Nes. It just happens to be a Yontif. But the Mechayiv of Adlokas Neres, yes, is because of the Nes. That is because of the Nes. So here we say Afin Hoy Boy Sanes and Noshim Ramachuyev and Adlokas Neres. I want to tell you a Chiddush that in Butler Megillus Tainus, that we know that many Yom Tovim became abolished. Lo Yitzur Rabbi Sai. Lo Yitzur, that the Yontif of Chanukah would become abolished. Women would still have, not only women, we would still have a Chiv of Adlokas Neres. The Mechayiv of Adlokas Neres is not the Shem Yontif. There the Mechayiv is the Nes. So about the Noshim Medaki Mechuyev, Avin Oy Boy Sanes. But Lagabe the Shaila, the Stachemet asked, let them also be Mechuyev in the Halal of Chanukah. Halal, Avin Oy Sanes. Halal of Chanukah is not because of the Nes, Rabbi Sai. The Halal of Chanukah was because of the Shem Yontif. Rabbi Sai, we should be Zoichem as Hashem Harachamon, Vayasalon and Nisim. Rabbi Shem should do Nitzikmo Shesisol Vaseina B'Yom Bezman Hazeh. We should be Zoiche that the Atzolas HaTorah and the Gevalig Ashpos HaTorah, the Neiris, the Ner Mitzvah Torah, should bring Rabbi Sai a lot of spiritual light in all of our families and all of the Hashpos HaTorah with it. We should be Zoiche to Oirich El Mashiach, Orachti Ner Le Mashichi, B'mheira B'Ymeinu Amen.